The average American eats 250 eggs a year, as well as sprinkling and melting on an average 37 pounds of cheese, washed down with over 16 gallons of milk a year. It is safe to say these three food items are the holy triumvirate at the top of American grocery lists. But how do these staples end up on our kitchen table? Where does an egg come from, and how does it get to your skillet and plate? This is a story to help you understand about how foods like eggs, cheese, and milk are produced by a farmer, and the relationship with a distributor and retailer, and ultimately the journey these farm products take to your kitchen table.
Shenandoah Valley Family Farms has been around since the early 90s. A couple of local farmers decided they wanted to share what they felt was quality food that they had for their families with more people. Put it on the store shelf. When my wife and I were on a dairy farm, we had a small flock of chickens. When we moved here, we decided to share the nutrition of the good eggs with other people as well. My wife and I and our two youngest children, each afternoon at approximately 4 o'clock, it's time to gather the eggs. The doors on the side of the wagon, we can flip them open and reach right into the nests inside. We gather them by hand, take them into the building to inspect them, wash them by hand, put them in flats in the cooler. We try to get them in cold storage almost immediately, so to preserve the freshness of the egg. But there's a lot of hand involvement there, and we like it. It keeps us close to nature, close to the production of our food. We're all certified organic. We all have similar production practices, as you see here. We have our chickens are out on grass. It's my job to circulate among the farms and see how things are done. We have our occasional meetings where we all sit round table and we exchange ideas on best practices and what works on our farms and what our concerns are. The quality that we produce with our eggs is consistent because of our cooperation as farms. As you can see, the chickens are very happy out on pasture. We've found that the nutrition in the eggs is greatly increased when chickens have access to grass. The chlorophyll in the grass and all the trace minerals, all the nutrition is actually concentrated in the yolk of the egg, and so it passes on through to the human food chain. So yes, it's partly for the happy hens, but also partly for the nutrition that we get out of the egg, the increased nutrition. Of course, we still have the same goals today. As the group has gotten larger, we still want to share the quality food that we have on our farms with others.
In 2014, our family moved down here to Virginia, and we had the privilege of starting Wadels Farm Wagon. Shenandoah Valley Family Farms reached out to me and wondered if I would consider bringing their eggs to their markets. SVFF, Shenandoah Valley Family Farms, was growing, and they were also facing some challenges. They wanted their focus to be more on producing the product rather than producing and distributing the product. So an average week would go something like this. Early Monday morning, I receive a phone call from several of the farmers. They may state how much produce they can have for that week. Then we send emails out to the stores telling how much produce we expect we can have for the week. These stores then reply with their projected needs, and then we go back to the farmer. The farmer sometimes will say, "Oh, I have 5 more tomatoes. Can you sell those tomatoes?" We have to make a phone call back to the store. "Morning, Jason, can you use 5 more flats of tomatoes?" "Sure, I'll put that on." Maybe Jason doesn't answer. We call another store. "Can you use 5 flats of tomatoes for today?" "We'll be happy to," says Eric. So we go in, we change the PO, we add those 5 flats of tomatoes to their order. In the middle of each week, one of our drivers will make his rounds to 10, 12 different of our local farms, picks up the organic eggs, the produce, the cheese, the milk. In other words, it's a family product rather than a commercially produced product. Again, it comes back to that hand care, that hand produce, the care that's given to the soil, the care that's given to the quality of the product rather than just the final dollar. One thing that many of us, even myself, often underestimate is how much work goes into each piece of produce that's brought to the store, each dozen of eggs that's brought to the customer. The farmer hand gathers the eggs, he hand washes the eggs, hand packs the eggs. We hand load them from their coolers, carry them to our truck, stack it in our truck, secure it in our truck. If you've never driven with a truckload of eggs before, you do it carefully. It's not something you want spilling. One of the contributing factors to our sustainability is our efficiency. If we're going on a route, we can take 6 pieces of cheese to a customer when Wayne cannot take 6 pieces of cheese to a customer. But if we have a route already established, then we can take a small order. Our passion here at Wadels Farm Wagon is somewhat twofold: to provide sustainability for our local farms, but also to provide availability to our customers for the local products. It puts a smile on our face every time we can provide a product to the customer, but it also puts a smile on our face every time we can make a connection with our farmers.
Our mission, in short, is good food, good community, good planet. We sell natural and local foods for the community. We're a community-owned grocery store, which means that we have member owners here. I think we have a really good relationship with our local community, the farmers who want to get their products out. We want to support the local community the best we can, and that involves reaching out to these farmers or them reaching out to us and being like, hey, we have these new things, do you want to give them a try? And I really like that about the co-op, is we do give everyone from the local community a fair shot. I definitely think that our customers have their local staples. They come in here for those specific items. The organic eggs are a great example. We actually are sold out this week. Our customers, they know what we stand for, and that's why they shop here. You shop with your dollar, you vote with your dollar, and I think it says a lot that our customers come in and buy those more expensive items just because they're local. It helps keep the money in the local economy. You know, we're just a tiny little grocery store in the middle of the city of Harrisonburg, but we're owned by our community, and I think that that is so cool. You don't see that every day. You're adding the things that you want specifically, the things your neighborhood wants, and supporting the farmers who live around here and making sure that, you know, they can have a living too, who are growing the food and providing the food for their children and their neighbors. And I also think it keeps it from going into the wrong hands. I think that the money that we raise here goes back into the people who grow it. And I think that that's one of the most important things.
I grew up in the valley, and we were gone for about 40 years. We lived in Africa, in Europe. I have a master's degree in anthropology of food, and I didn't realize that there was something called anthropology of food. And I sort of used to make a joke, oh, one day I'm going to be a culinary anthropologist. And then I read a book, actually, and I discovered that there was. I find it just as a good introduction to understanding the values of a community, and because it's a lot about environment, agriculture, family values, it's a nice way to look at what's happening in the valley. One of the things that I really believe in is that healthy food is local food for a number of reasons. It's local because it's fresh, of course, and because you know where it's coming from. It's also a healthy alternative because it supports the environment, it supports the families and the farmers who care about their land, who go out of their way to guard the land that here in the valley we treasure. And it's also about the families who are working on the farm and the support for them. So when I saw that there was an organization that was supporting, then I began to select products that I knew were coming from Shenandoah Valley Farms.
Production of eggs, cheese, or milk is a crucial starting point. Consumers are increasingly wanting dairy products which are raised in a healthier way for the animals and environment. This demand makes it a particular challenge for farmers. Knowing what the consumer is looking for is one important point, but being able to provide that product in a timely, cost-effective manner is a significant challenge.
We do have a few challenges, and a lot of our challenges are on the production side. So when we have a drought like we had this year, where all my grass turns brown and the hens don't have any green grass to eat. It makes a challenge to keep happy hens in that situation. One of the challenges that we have with the chickens outdoors is aerial predators, whether it's red-tailed hawks or the sharp-shinned hawks. When the roosters sense danger nearby, calls all the hens to come running back and shelter in the shelter of the wagons, and the roosters will stand out and stand guard. Some folks use watch guards. Geese, for example. If you have a goose out with the chicken flock, they are very much a deterrent to aerial predators coming in. Some keep dogs, herding dogs with the flock. Some keep llamas. There's various ways to deal with it, but it is one of the challenges that we have to deal with flocks that are on grass, out in the open, free ranging. When we look at the challenge of getting these food products to the consumer that wants them, there's ebbs and flows in the supply and demand of these products. And last year, when COVID hit and we had a lot of disruptions, there were some segments of the food chain, the food service end of things, the restaurants, the schools and all that shut down. People that were supplying them all of a sudden had no market for their products, it seemed. From Shenandoah Valley's side of things, we were putting a product on the store shelf that the consumer could come in and pick it up. And so when they said, well, we can't eat at the restaurant anymore, we're going to eat at home, they came and picked our eggs off the shelf. And so it was a real boon for us, what was a bane for someone else, you know. So it ebbs and flows. But again, having someone like Waddles there to manage that end of it, concentrate on it, has been a real blessing for us. We can focus on our production, and they can do the marketing.
Once the dairy product is ready and available for the consumer, the next challenge is distributing and putting it on the retailer's shelves.
One of our challenges is to understand and also project the demands for the future.
So we actually have a pretty fun but extensive product research task list that we do. First of all, we look for specific things like, is it non-GMO? Is it organic? Is it local? Is it women-owned? Is it a B Corp? Fair trade is another really important one that people look for. And we also really listen to our customer feedback. Any sort of product suggestions they want to see, we'll go through our task list, request samples if needed from the company, and then adjust shelving and spacing accordingly and bring it in if we think it's worth it and if it'll sell, if it's a good price.
I think the way that consumers are becoming more aware and more willing, perhaps, to go with some of the issues that, you know, maybe the cost is higher, maybe you can't get everything. If you eat in season, you don't always have everything you want at the same time. I think from my perspective, a lot of it is about health. It may also be about, you know, care for the environment, care for the local producer, but at the end of the day, it's probably pretty individual, and it's a lot about the fact that people, particularly in my age, if to be quite honest, people begin to realize that they feel better, they have less problems, and they're beginning to believe that food is a big part of that. I think that's perhaps a bit of a shift where we've moved a bit away from medicalizing and treating everything with medicines. People are beginning to realize, if I change my diet a bit. And then I think the step to being willing to eat more naturally produced and people reading and becoming aware. But I would guess that thing that makes a difference probably is health.
Our vendors are super transparent with us, which makes it so we can be transparent with our customers. And our customers appreciate that because they're more likely to buy it if they know the honest truth behind where it came from, the practices of growing that item, etc.
The last place where we lived was in Europe, was in France and Switzerland. And in understanding there, the value people hold where you go to a grocery store in the city and ask about the milk and the meat and what they're having, and they say to you, our clients will not buy anything that's not local and that we can't tell them exactly how it's been raised, how it's been fed. So you have a client group that are demanding a certain type of food. I think that was a new experience for me. So I came back here just kind of wondering what was happening in the U.S. and how much support was out there for farmers who were struggling to provide healthy, good, local food. When I have gone to some of the different farmers in Shenandoah Valley Farms with questions, particularly first coming back into the valley asking questions, I have really appreciated their willingness to take time, both to answer my questions and to ask a bit about some of the experiences that I've had. They've been very open, and it's obvious that they're actually very well read on the topic.
If you could go out and visit Wayne's farm where he produces the cheese, you would buy his cheese for a long time. If you could see the hard work that goes into it, if you could see the care that he gives to every detail along the way, you feel like supporting his cheese a lot more. You know where it comes from, you know what went into it, you have traceability, you have transparency. You can look on that lot number of that cheese, we can trace it back, he can see his testing, he can see the date it was produced. That's a big part of who we are, that transparency and that traceability. Delivering to the stores is one of the most enjoyable aspects of our work. Here we meet our customers. Relationships is the core of our business here at Waddles. If it wasn't for relationships, we couldn't survive. It's relationships with our farmers, it's relationships with our own workers, relationships with our stores, and even at times relationships with customers. But without relationships, it wouldn't work.
So if Wayne tells me what he does, I trust him. And it is, I do believe that it is the relationship for the consumer is about trusting, and we trust certain companies and certain people. And when you know them and you know their values, so it is a value, it's a value-based trust about how he's producing his product.
We do this because it's part of our family farm belief system. We really want to continue with that as our base and core philosophy is being able to share this nutrition with other families.
That's right. We're fortunate. We're really fortunate to live in a valley that is so productive. We have, it's incredible. If you go to other countries, you know that what we have is a wonderful thing. We have the rain, we have the soil, and so it just takes people who care and value it and tend it, and we should have something that lasts forever.
Trust, communication, and healthy relationships. When the average person thinks about how they ultimately get the dairy and egg products they eat, these components may not enter their mind, but it turns out that they are the integral values, the lubrication in the food value chain, which makes it possible to receive high-quality, healthy, environmentally friendly dairy and poultry products.